living here in Australia, our biggest meal is at night, which doesn't make sense. Why would you be eating your biggest meal at night when you're going to sleep? You fill yourself up and then you wake up really sluggish and not feeling that good, and then you fast again. Of course, you're not going to feel the best. So it's just a vicious cycle, as when you have a coffee straight away because you're tired and you're sluggish. It's all linked. So if you just do these simple things, like no strict rules, but just something to be aware of. Okay, maybe I should move my biggest meal to the middle of the day. And I think that's where you see huge change. I cannot tell you how many people say to me at the end of a retreat, oh, I just woke up full of energy. It's because you didn't eat a huge meal.
This is episode 94. I am so happy that you're here, and thank you for joining my show, your coach, Helen Yuskovic. I am on a worldwide mission to help people get confident in putting themselves first, because I used to put myself second my whole life. And because of that, I experienced every unhealthy relationship possible. An unhealthy relationship with myself, my health, my wealth, my intimate relationships, my family, my friends, and my career. I'm now living in an abundance that I used to just dream about. So I want to pave the way for you too. It's time, guys. It's time that you live in the life of your dreams as well. So let's take a step towards that right now. P.S. Subscribe to my podcast on your app now so that you always tune in to my new episodes. Okay, here we are for round 2 with Tash.
Hello.
From Burbury Whole Foods. She's such a little light. She's like a bundle of joy. You know, you said last episode that you love cats, and you actually remind me of a kitten.
Oh, I love cats so much. It's great. I love that people know that I love cats, because then I get heaps of cat gifts.
Do you have a cat at the moment?
Yeah, Pepper.
Pepper?
Yeah, I didn't name him. He came to us. I actually went to buy a table off someone, and they were like, do you want our cat? I was like, yeah, sure. So he's 6 years old, but we only got him 6 months ago, and he came with his name.
It's so suited to you because you're a chef.
Yeah, I know. I want the next one to be called Salt.
Salt and Pepper.
Yeah.
Aww.
But Tom's like, there's no way we're getting another cat. But, you know, I can just bring one home.
Tom is the other half of Burbury Whole Foods. So, Tash, let's talk about the journey of Burbury Whole Foods. How did you two combine forces? How did you two even have the same profession? What happened there, and how did you get there?
Well, Tom wasn't a chef.
Okay.
We met 5 years ago now, and he was working an office job, and I had just started Burbury Whole Foods, and I was doing market stall in the northern beaches of Sydney, where I used to sell fancy avocado toast. And then it sounds boring, but it was actually really good.
There is something magical about avocado toast.
Oh, yeah, it's the best.
Those breakfasts that you made us. Oh, my Lord. It was so good.
It's like that, but yeah, fancy avocado toast, I call it. He was like, I hate my job. Can we please go traveling? And I was like, I've just started this business. It's going pretty good. I just won a contract with Billabong Retreat as well as their chef. And I was like, oh, I can't believe that you're wanting me to leave. And he was like, please, I need to go away. So I dropped everything. I said to Billabong Retreat, please, can you hire me when I get back? And they're like, oh, we'll see. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm just got to let this go.
Wow. You made a love movement.
I made a love movement, which I don't regret at all. When we went to India, and that's where I studied Aryuveda and my yoga, we did our yoga teacher training, and I basically was sick for 3 months.
How come?
Oh, just India. My belly didn't really handle it that well.
I've heard.
But I still loved it. And then I basically told Tom, I was like, we've got to get out of here. I can't do it anymore. So we went to Spain and traveled around Spain for another month, and then I was like, look, I've got to go back. I've emailed Billabong and Retreat, and I really, really want to work there. So I left him in Spain. We're still together, obviously.
Yeah.
But we did long distance, and he kept traveling, and I came back, and basically kept Burbury Whole Foods running. And then he called me from overseas and was like, look, I feel like we can join forces. And I was like, yes, we can do it, because he's really business minded and I'm just a creative bunny. Like I don't really have much. Like I'm super into the business, but I'm more of on the creative side. And so I was like, yes, this is exactly what Burbury Whole Food needs. So he came back and joined the markets and then basically just made Burbury Whole Foods what it is. Like there's no way that we would be where we are without Tom. He kind of like pushed us to do our own thing. Even though Billabong was a great contract, it was still under their name. It was like I was hired as a chef, but you come in with all your own stuff. Whereas like now we're completely Burbury Whole Foods and people hire us like you did for your retreat. Yeah. So yeah, he basically is the business brain behind the whole thing. And then I also trained him. So 4 years later, I always say, you just finished your apprenticeship.
I love your whole journey of learning about Ayurveda. So it sounds like you were meant to move. So I know you basically packed up and left when you had this amazing opportunity. But isn't it interesting to see how life is actually happening for you?
Totally.
And not to you? Look, I don't know why you had the India belly for so long.
That's also part of the journey.
But I hear so many people get that when they go to India, and I think it's just a whole new environment.
Yeah, and it's just so starkly different to here.
Yeah.
If you want to go to somewhere that's the most opposite to here, that's India. And you've got to go.
Yeah, I love that you did your teacher training there too.
Yeah, it's so funny. Tom's brother, they teach teachers yoga, and we've hated their yoga teacher trainings, and I've like listened into classes, and it's just India training is just so different to Australia training. In India, it's just all about asana and learning the work, and not just, it is also about philosophy, but it's just all about basically you taking in as much knowledge as you possibly can, and also your asana practice, making sure, which is your physical practice, making sure you're at a level that they think is high enough to be able to teach. Whereas in Australia, they actually teach you how to teach.
Totally.
So it's just a totally different experience.
Yeah.
I think you need to do both, really.
Yeah. I love that. Let's talk about Ayurvedic principles. But when it comes to eating, like when it comes to food, firstly, what is an Ayurvedic principle? So some people have no idea what I'm talking about. Although I just did a 3-part series on Ayurveda and the doshas, the 3 different body types. So
cool.
Some people have an awareness already of it. Is it for everybody? Talk about food and Ayurvedic principles.
You probably covered this in the last podcast, but for people that maybe didn't listen, Ayurveda, it's based on 5 elements. So there's water, earth, fire, air, and space. And basically what happens is that everybody contains those elements, and the world also contains those elements. And then some people have more than others in particular, and that's where you have your doshas. So you would have had in the last podcast, like there's 3 different doshas, so Pitta, Kapha, and Vata. And people will be like more dominant. Some people they'll just have all 3 quite equally, which is quite rare though. But someone will be more dominant in those doshas. So put all that aside, with food, basically with food is that you kind of follow your dosha, which is what I really love about Ayurveda, is like it's not just this be all and end all of like, you can't have this, which the previous podcast we just already done. We were saying like letting go of rules, and that's what I love about Ayurveda. It's like, here's some ideas and things that will help you with your dosha to live a beautiful longevity within your life, but they're just ideas. There's no like strict, you can't have grains or you can't have gluten. It's just what works with you. So with food, it's funny at retreats because obviously with Ayurveda I can't like make 12 different meals for people because I would be cooking for more than 24 hours a day. So basically we just follow different principles around Ayurveda, which is eating with the seasons, different food combinations that will help with digestion. Ayurveda's really big on digestion and, different legumes, for instance, are easier to digest than others. And food combinations, for instance, you don't have fruit with anything else. So you have fruit separately just because fruit will digest at a faster rate than other foods. Yeah. But then again, there's also, you don't have to stick, that's not like a strict rule. It's just like something to be aware of, which I really love about Ayurveda.
Yeah. Totally.
Oh, and Ayurveda is basically, it means knowledge of life. So it's not just like a way of eating, it's like a way of being, which is really cool. Yeah.
The best way of being.
Yeah.
It's time for your first curveball.
At least I know these now.
And your first curveball is, what do you love to do on a day off?
Oh, I love to walk in the sun, play with the cat. I do a lot of yoga on my days off, hang out with friends. I drink a lot of chai at a beautiful cafe called Old Mains. I think I mentioned them last time.
Yes.
They should honestly give me a promo code or something. That's how often I talk about them. I don't, by the way. I just love them so much. The girls in there are just lovely. And yeah, I just like to keep it chill. I'm also like a super workaholic, so I do try to keep my life more balanced on my days off.
Yeah, like your balanced day.
Yeah.
Tash, when did you get introduced to Ayurvedic principles? And did that start like from when you went to India? Did you bring it back with you, or was it something you did after? Or
before? So at my first job as a chef, they used Ayurvedic principles. I was introduced to it from a while ago. So when I was 22 and I'm 30 now. So yeah, I got introduced to it there. I kind of was always super into it just because of the way, how gentle it is. It's just this not absolute thing, like, which I just find with diets is that they're very, dogmatic, and people literally, it's their identity now. Like, I think now that religion in some communities, like especially in Australia, is like starting to, it's not so strong here. I feel like people's diets have like become their religion. It's like their identity. But with Ayurveda, it's not like that. It's malleable. It's not like this absolute, which is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Release the identity if it's attached to food. It's unhealthy. Yeah. But I wanted to tell you, because you mentioned digestion before with Ayurvedic principles, and the first day of our retreat, I told everybody to get well acquainted with their toilet, because they're going to be eating a lot of whole foods and there's going to be lots of fiber in the diet, and it's a different sort of way of eating for a lot of people. And you'd be happy to know that all of the girls, TMI, little warning here, but they were pooping like 2 to 3 times a day. And everyone was so regular, and they were like, what the hell?
Oh, that's good.
Totally. But, it's so good to have a healthy digestive system. Yeah. So if you're listening and you do suffer with digestive issues, highly recommend whole foods, and I highly recommend Ayurvedic principles. Just look into it if nothing is working for you.
Yeah. Ayurveda's main thing is digestion, because they believe that that's the core thing. Like if you have a good digestion, then it will radiate into the rest of your body, which makes sense, really. A good poo is a good day.
Totally. I know. We had so many good days at the retreat. Let's discuss some core principles, Tash, and let's begin with the morning. So I heard you say eat with the sun and fruit, try to have that on its own. But let's talk about the morning. What's the best way to begin our days with food using Ayurvedic principles?
So with Ayurveda, I think I talked about this in the retreat a bit, which I really like. So basically they believe that your digestion is like a fire, and at the beginning of the day, when you begin your fire, it's when you add your kindling to it, which is kind of the same as the sun. So when the sun is at its peak is when, your fire is burning and you add all your logs in, your digestive fire is really strong. That's like when you would eat meat as well, because like on the retreat, we ate meat at lunch, because that's when your digestive fire is at its strongest, and meat is a little bit harder to digest. So in the morning, I'm all about having a light breakfast. So I definitely believe in having breakfast. It's a funny thing. It works for some people, knowing your body, which is, again, about Ayurveda, is listening to what your dosha is. But it's important, in my understanding, is to have something at the beginning of the day to start your digestive fire, to have a bit of kindling in there. So a light breakfast, for instance, you start off with some water with maybe a bit of lemon in it and ginger. Ayurveda really loves ginger because it's quite warming.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would wait half an hour. You can do all your morning practices as you like, tongue scraping and body brushing to get rid of dry skin and things like that. And then for breakfast, you have something light. So a porridge is really good because it's cooked, it's pre-digested for you, and it's really light on the belly. So you'd have your water, then your fruit, then you wait half an hour, and then you'd have your porridge. Or if it's like, listening to your body, and depending on the seasons, in winter you would want to have something a bit more warmer. So yeah, porridge is really good. But then in summer, something a bit lighter. So maybe just some fresh fruit in summer, again, depending on your dosha. And then at lunchtime is when you'd have your biggest meal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I've heard the saying before, fruit first on an empty stomach. But I always believe in some sort of like a cleansing drink first as well, just to ease your digestive system into wake.
Totally.
State. Whether that's something warm or whether that's something, like you said, with ginger in it that is warming. And let me tell you, some of the girls at the retreat, guys, that are listening, they never ate breakfast. And by the end of the retreat, they were eating breakfast. And they were like, I just can't believe how my diet has changed.
Oh, that's amazing.
So, yeah, it's just about being open to different things and different ways of eating and just seeing what serves you. Like, what do you like?
Totally. I know, as we said in the last episode, when having an eating disorder, I spent years, I'd say 10 years, not having breakfast. And I was so afraid, if I eat breakfast, I'll gain weight. And it's funny, I started eating breakfast and my body weight actually just stayed the same. It's this weird fear of eating breakfast for some reason. It's such an important meal of the day. And it doesn't have to be big.
Totally.
If it's too daunting to start off with having a big porridge, then start off the day with your lemon water and then a banana, and then maybe wait a bit and have something a bit later, because I know it can be hard. If you haven't eaten breakfast for 10 years, you're probably not going to be hungry because your body has been trained not to have it. So it can be daunting to bring that in again. So just be gentle on yourself and have a banana. Bananas are great.
I love that. Let's move on to snacks. And what are the best sort of snacks when it comes to Ayurvedic principles and lunchtime? What is the best sort of way to eat just in relation to that?
Yeah, snacks, Ayurveda, they say that there should be like gaps between meals. So again, it really depends on your dosha. So making sure you give your digestion a break. So you'll have your breakfast, have a break for a few hours, have lunch, and then maybe having a sweet straight after lunch, and then having a break again. So not fasting, definitely not fasting. It's just giving your digestion a break. So with snacks, like a really good one is having your fruit separate in the mornings, and then like a bliss ball. Ayurveda loves ginger and cardamom and lots of spices, and they love good chai. Think India vibes, like really warming. I feel like Ayurveda is just this giant hug. Think about all the foods that give you a giant hug. That's Ayurveda.
So delicious. Yeah. So don't think, if you're listening, that they're gross because it sounds a little bit healthy. They're actually delicious.
Yeah.
It was one of the biggest highlights of our retreat, eating like this, and it changed a lot of people's perception as well, to the point where they purchased the book, to the point where they're cooking like this at home. So it's made an impact. But Tash, it's time for your curveball. Are you ready to play?
I'm ready.
All right. So your next curveball is, if you could be any animal.
Oh, this is an easy one.
What would it be? What would it be and why? Are you going to say a cat?
Yeah, of course.
Why?
I just love how they're just like little sassy humans. I love dogs as well. Don't get me wrong. I love all animals, but I just love how you just don't know whether you're going to have a good day or a bad day with them. Like they're going to give you how it is.
I always say dogs have owners, cats have staff.
Yeah, and definitely Pepper, my cat, has staff.
Bless Pepper. Let's chat quickly about nighttime dinner and how we should eat according to Ayurvedic principles.
Yeah, nighttime's a great one, and I feel like it's one that you really do notice a difference, especially on retreats. Living here in Australia, our biggest meal is at the night. I grew up on typical meat, 3-veg night meal, which it just doesn't make sense. Like if you actually think about it, that's why I love Ayurveda as well, is that it makes sense. Why would you be eating your biggest meal at night when you're going to sleep? Yeah, and which can be really hard, especially if you're fasting in the morning, which is what some people do, and then they have lunch, and maybe not the biggest lunch because you haven't started your digestion, so you're not that hungry, and then you get to dinner and you're just starving. So you're going to have this big meal at night, and then you fill yourself up, and then you wake up really sluggish and not feeling that good, and then you fast again. Of course, you're not going to feel the best. So I really love how Ayurveda is, again, letting out your digestive fire. So the sun is going down, you're letting out that fire, and you're just having a really nice, light cooked meal at night. So by cooking the food, it's pre-digested for you. So I always think of it like a blender. If you put food in a blender, it's blending it up for you, which is what your body has to do is blend it all up. So if you blend it and cook it, it's going to be done for you. So it's going to be so much easier for you to digest the food. So a beautiful soup. Now it's winter. I love winter, and Ayurveda just thrives in winter. Is a beautiful cooked soup at night. It's light to let out your digestive fire. And I cannot tell you how many people say to me at the end of a retreat, I just woke up full of energy. It's because you didn't eat a huge meal. Just makes sense.
Yeah. Eat light at night. You shouldn't be digesting when you go to sleep. And what actually happens if you have a big meal right before bed is the digestive system sort of stops when your body goes into sleep. And so it's just sort of resting there. And that's why you can tend to feel sluggish in the morning. It's advised to try to not eat 2 to 3 hours before bed, just so that your body and your brain can actually focus on resting, revitalizing the body and replenishing the body, instead of having to work so hard to pull apart this meat that you've just eaten or this pasta that you've just eaten.
It's just a vicious cycle as well. Like you've had a big meal, so you feel sluggish, and then you wake up and you have a coffee straight away because you're tired and you're sluggish. It's all linked. So if you just do these simple things, like no strict rules, but just something to be aware of. Okay, maybe I should, move my biggest meal to the middle of the day. And I think that's where you see huge change.
Yeah, and you do start seeing little changes. So start to implement one change if you can, and see if your body likes it. And if it does, then maybe try, okay, maybe I'm going to eat light at night tonight. I'm going to see what happens in the morning.
Totally.
Oh, Tash, thank you so much.
No worries.
Before you go, is there anything that you'd love to share?
Yeah, we are ready this time. All right, so cookbook. I'm not the best at talking about it, but I am super proud of it. So it's my biggest dream, just to have everyone cooking whole foods at home. I mean, that's why we created the cookbook. So I do really want people to get it in their kitchens. So we have a discount code for all of the listeners. It's Celebrate in capital letters. So if you go onto our website, so the cookbook has its own website. It's anythingspossiblecookbook.com. And then when you go to purchase it, they'll say code, and you can say Celebrate, because life is one big celebration.
Love that. And it's such a beautiful book. I can't recommend it enough. I will put all of Tash's links in the show notes, guys, so don't stress if you haven't got the details. I'll put the details there and on the captions in our Instagram posts as well. Tash, thank you so much for giving all the listeners a little treat.
Oh, thanks for having me. That's awesome.
Amazing.
So much fun.
Thank you so much. Hopefully we talk soon.
Yeah, I'll see you soon.
See you later.
Bye.
Thank you times infinity for spending time with me. It really means a lot. Putting yourself first will really help escalate your goals, your dreams, and I love being on the journey with you. So make sure you come and tell me on my Instagram at Whole Health which is HOL_health, and comment below this podcast photo to share your thoughts on my show today. And if you enjoyed it, please leave me a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify so that I can keep bringing amazing value to you. I'm sending you truckloads of love, power, and joy. Bye for now.